Wherever you're watching around the world, welcome to Melbourne, home to one of the most vibrant and passionate sporting cultures in the world. This city has hosted the Olympics, the Commonwealth Games, Formula One, the Ashes, the Melbourne Cup, and every year the Australian Open tennis. In a few years' time, it hopes to be one of the host cities for the World Cup. But today, it's the venue for the 2009-2010 Hyundai A-League Grand Final between the champions Melbourne Victory and this season's premiers, Sydney FC. This venue, in fact, has been a battleground for the Australian World Cup bid for 2018-2022. It is controlled by a different code of football, but it's the round ball that takes precedence today. Melbourne, the multicultural city with large immigrant populations from Italy, Greece, India, China and Vietnam. And there are 9 different nationalities represented in the two-team lineups tonight. Here are the teams, starting with Melbourne Victory. The big news is that Tom Pondolyak has failed in his bid to become the first player to play in 8 grand finals. His hamstring injury keeps him out. Robbie Cruz and Archie Thompson, though, are both fit. They and Carlos Hernandez will keep the Sydney FC defence very busy. And could this be the last game of Kevin Muscat's stellar career? He leads the Victory in every sense. Now, as for Sydney FC, they've opted to stick with the former Melbourne Victory man Seb Ryle at right back, despite the return to fitness of Shannon Cole. And in the absence of veterans John Aloisi and Steve Corica, Mark Bridge continues in his attacking midfield role. And Chris Payne, scorer of that hugely controversial handball goal against Wellington Phoenix last week, leads the line alongside. So away we go in the grand final, 141 games, 367 goals this season. It all comes down to this: dark blue versus sky blue in the biggest blue of all. Which hue are you leaning towards, Robbie Slater?
Well, I think you mentioned it's a huge rivalry. And you said, Simon, that we've waited 5 years for it to happen, and that's exactly right. It's the promoter's dream. We've talked a lot about key individuals, key battles within the game. I think that maybe one place that we have missed is that midfield area. It is so important, particularly in a grand final, to try and control that. And it's a big battle in there. Brebner and Broxham and Michalek is the key to the tempo for Sydney. If they can keep possession away from the danger man, Hernandez. The Sydney play that narrow diamond, so McFlynn and Kissel on either side of Michalek and Bridge do tuck in, so you find that their hottest spot is also in the middle.
Colosimo was late there. He's got to be a wee bit careful, Simon Colosimo, already in the book. Kevin Muscat arguing the toss with the 4th official, Matthew Breeze, and Muscat gets a yellow for his verbal complaint. Well, Matthew Breeze, the 4th official, he actually refereed the grand final last year and sent 2 players off at this venue. Muscat perhaps can't let it go. He was incensed by that challenge from Simon Colosimo, as were 1 or 2 of the Melbourne coaching staff.
Well, you'd have to agree that it wasn't a great challenge from Simon Colosimo.
Should he walk for that? Well, he's on a yellow.
Well, it's a yellow card offence. You can't deny it.
Here's Hernandez on the turn. He took a deflection. It's bundled home by Rodrigo Vargas. Or is it? Wait a moment. Wait a moment. The celebrations have been cut short because an offside flag has been raised. The Melbourne fans don't know it yet, but it won't count. And Sydney are away up the other end. A big talking point in the grand final. Here's Alex Pross, skips away from Vargas, who's almost the hero, and Sydney have scored at the other end, and this one will count. It's Mark Bridge, who becomes the first man to score in successive grand finals since John and Stadiadis back in the 90s. An unbelievable 60 seconds in the Hyundai A-League Grand Final.
Well, have you got time to take a breath? It's a disallowed goal at one end, and Melbourne switched off. They were complaining to the referee's assistant. We haven't had time to have a look at it because the play's gone up the other end, and Alex Prosk down the left-hand side. There was a massive deflection that took it over the head of Langerak. Mark Bridge was there, you'd have to say he's got it right. He has got it right. Vargas, that's his second disallowed goal. But they switched off. Kevin Muscat dived in on the halfway line. Bross down the left-hand side. The cross is a massive deflection. And Mark Bridge lurking at the back post. Melbourne defence got called ball watching. And he's got the simple task of nodding this one into the back of the net.
Well, Mark Bridge, and in my excitement I said he'd scored in successive grand finals. Of course it's not. The first goal he scored in a grand finals for Newcastle 2 years ago, but he is the first man to score in 2 grand finals since John Anastasiades, and I can't even get that out right. That's how excited we all are here.
Wow. For
South Melbourne back in the late 90s. What an unbelievable few seconds in the grand final.
What was it, 30 seconds? Cruz has been on his own. He's been well marshalled by Keller and Colosimo, but Archie Thompson, it was a psychological blow.
He's barely had a kick, Robbie Cruz, has he?
No. Been outstanding, that Sydney defence.
Broxham's worked hard though, all game, and he's got a free kick for Melbourne.
And in front of them, this guy McFlynn, Mujala, Kissel, they've worked ever.
Muscat, it's headed in! What a goal! Melbourne are level in the grand final, and it's Adrian Leia with a bullet header. Etihad Stadium erupts. A sea of dark blue. They look dead and buried. Enter Adrian Leia.
Well, if there was one way they were going to get back, it always looked likely from the set piece. That's a great delivery in. And the key here is Leia attacks the ball. Muscat takes it. It's got a bit of tail on it, but Leia wants it. He attacks the ball. He gets the perfect angle on it. Everyone's waiting for Hernandez. Muscat comes up and takes it a little bit quicker. And look at Leia attacking the ball. He outjumps Sebastian Ryle and past Bolton as his outstretched left hand.
Game on in the grand final. It's taken a while to come to life. Clint Bolton is filthy with his defenders. Sydney had been so solid until that moment. Melbourne fans trying to suck the ball into the back of the net for the set piece. Free header! Oh, and it's over the top. That was a golden opportunity and a chance for Adrian Leia to make himself into an even bigger hero.
Well, it was an easier one than his first one. He hasn't got a challenge. It's another good ball from Broxham to the back post. He loses Colosimo. It's a free header on the edge of the 6-yard box. He's got to work the keeper there. Must hit the target.
Hernandez on set-piece duty. Flicked onto the near post and almost bundled home by Aussies Bayich. Sydney are all over the place at set-pieces. Play is almost exclusively down at this end of the park.
What was Bayich thinking there? He just needed to volley that home. He's completely on his own. Just hit it across your body with your right foot and you're the hero.
Well read by Vargas. Angulo's touch. Hernandez, the two Costa Ricans coming much more into the game. They combine. Hernandez. Wide is Bayich. The crowd rises. Colosimo holds them up, at least for the moment. Still Bayich. And that is the final act in what has been a tense and gripping encounter. In fairness, I don't think you could say it was a game that ever really hit the heights. But there were some big talking points. Rodrigo Vargas' disallowed goal. And then straight up at the other end, Mark Bridge putting Sydney in front. But Adrian Leia saved the day for Melbourne, who won't have wanted extra time given that they've got flights to Japan tonight. But extra time is what they and what we have. Full-time scoreline in the grand final. At the end of 90 minutes, Melbourne victory 1, Sydney FC 1. So away we go. 2 periods of extra time, 15 minutes each way, and if teams still can't be separated, then we'll have all the drama of penalty kicks, and there's no doubting, Robbie Slater, that it was Melbourne who finished the 90 minutes the stronger of the two teams. Melbourne have used all their three substitutes. Here's the Sydney free kick, Kissel square, Bridge makes the opening, and it's a good save by Langerak. You'd fancy he might take a penalty.
He might fall on it. It's all over.
Penalty kicks will decide the 2009-2010 Hyundai A-League Grand Final. They can't be separated after normal time nor extra time. Mark Bridge putting Sydney ahead. Adrian Leia with the equaliser, but there was to be no further scoring, and this particular trophy this year will be decided from 11 metres. The full-time scoreline after extra time at Etihad Stadium: Melbourne victory 1, Sydney FC 1.
There you go, the mind game starting already. Mitch Langerak going up to look at the spot, and right in front of Simon Colosimo. Colosimo didn't take a backward step. Trick is with a penalty, make your decision, don't change your mind.
And you told us you missed.
Well, there you go, I changed my mind.
Simon Colosimo scores and puts Sydney 1-0 up in the penalty shootout. Good penalty.
Very good penalty. Placement, Langerak goes the wrong way. That's a great start for Sydney FC, nice and confident. Doesn't try to blast it, just placing that. Gets it right into the corner.
Well, no prizes for guessing who's up first for Melbourne victory. Kevin Muscats, who rarely, if ever, misses from the penalty spot. Scored famously from the spot for Australia against Uruguay, World Cup qualifier 2001. He is the master of psychology from 11 metres. Can he fool Clint Bolton? He's missed. Would you believe it? The professor of the penalty kick has missed in the grand final. That's got to be a big omen for Sydney. The Melbourne fans can't believe it. Well, he never misses.
He sort of stabbed at it, didn't he? But he sends the keeper the wrong way, and it's flush onto the post. Unbelievable. I actually was thinking, why was he taking the first one? Maybe to get them off to a good start. He's the main penalty taker. But you see there, as he hits it, he sort of skips after it. He wasn't completely confident. And the Sydney bench delighted.
Advantage Sydney. Shannon Cole can increase that. Oh, it's a great save by Mitch Langerak. That is Mark Schwarzer-esque from the young Melbourne stopper.
I was about to say that. What a great save to Langerak. Right, he picks the right way, but still there's not a lot wrong with Shannon Cole's penalty. You could argue it's at a decent height for a goalkeeper, but he dives full stretch. He's hit it with some venom. That is a wonderful save. World-class save in a big moment, in a big match from Langerak.
Sydney fans can't believe it. Sydney still lead though, 1-0. After 3 penalties taken. Grant Brebner up next for Melbourne. Cool as you like, the Scotsman, 1-1.
Yeah, had an outstanding game, Grant Brebner. Carries that on to the penalties. Nice and confident, never looked like he was going to miss. Bolton the wrong way. Kevin Muscat, the most relieved man when Langerak saved the last one, but that's a very good pen. Picks his spot, nice and confident, puts it away.
Sydney's next taker is the veteran Hayden Fox. Well, a few months ago, he didn't think he'd be involved in a moment as big as this, but here he is. And he puts Sydney FC back in front at 2-1.
Well, sometimes you say it's just safe. I mean, it's not the greatest looking penalty, it's straight down the middle. But given that the goalkeeper's always going to go one way or the other, he's just drilled it straight down the middle. A little bit lucky, because if he left his legs there, Langerak was at a good height to maybe sweep it away. But Hayden Fox won't care. It's in the back of the net. Mark Bosnich is just beside me. He's saying he should have maybe kept his foot up a little bit in the air. Mind you, it's always a keeper's mistake.
Now Marvin Angulo is up next. He's played in finals football before back in Costa Rica. His former club sides lost out to Deportivo Saprissa back in 2007 in finals football. Big responsibility on the Costa Rican. And it's a great stop by Clint Bolton away to his left. Sydney really have the advantage now.
Well, that's the one that you say, that's at a perfect height for a goalkeeper. If he guesses the right way, you saw the camera on his face there, he didn't look confident, he was puffing out his cheeks, licking his lips. He doesn't hit this with any conviction, any confidence at all. Angulo, Clint Bolton, credit him, he goes the right way, but it's quite a simple save in the end.
Well, a hush descends upon Etihad Stadium, because Carol Kissel can really drive home the advantage for Sydney here. Scored against Melbourne from the spot in the major semi-final. This for 3-1. It is 3-1 for Sydney.
It's a great pin.
They're inching ever closer to the championship.
That's a great penalty from Kissel. At that height, they're not going to save it. Practically goes into the roof of the net. Straight down the middle.
And that means that Melbourne Victory have to score this penalty to stay in the contest.
Lee Broxham had a very, very good match. The Melbourne Victory midfielder. Big responsibility.
He has to score. Otherwise, it's Sydney's title. He does score. Huge responsibility.
Good pen. He's not sure about his run-up. It was a bit of a hop, skip and a jump up to it, but he hit it with confidence. He'd obviously made up his mind. Bolton goes the other way. There's the hop, skip. That's in the back of the net. Nicely into the corner. And this is the one now.
Yep, it's still very much advantage Sydney. If Bjorn, who's never scored for Sydney in normal play, tucks this away, the championship is heading to the Harbour City. They can barely watch. 48,000 people holding their breath. It's all on Bjorn and all on Langerak for Melbourne Victory. Bjorn scores! Sydney FC are the champions! The Sky Blues denying Melbourne back-to-back titles to secure their first championship in 4 years. Vitoslav Levitska wins the double in his first season in Australia, and it is the first time an away club has won the grand final, plus a first Sydney success in a grand final against a Melbourne team. The golden toilet seat has a sky blue hue once more. Sydney FC the champions. The full-time scoreline, Melbourne Victory 1, Sydney FC 1, but it's the Sky Blues who take the trophy on penalty kicks by 4 goals to 2.